house needs painting, grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Hello and welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. I have two special guests today, two of my favorite people in the whole wide world. I've got Billy Catfish Parker to my right, and I've got Hank Parker Jr. to my left.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, guys. I'm so glad you joined me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. This ought to be pretty interesting.
Well, we ought to have some good times together. We have, I said earlier when podcast I did with Billy, I've known him all his life. I've known you all your life. So that's pretty cool. And we've had some wonderful times together. And Hank Jr. has been really good to get me grandbabies that like to hunt and fish. So Billy's yet to be determined. We've got a few more years to go to see if they're going to like to hang out with Pawpaw and hunt the fish. But
we're in the making.
Boone is Hank Jr.'s oldest son, and he is 6'3" or 4, and he's quite the young man. I look up to him, but he loves to fish, so he thinks I'm somebody.
Yeah, he loves. Anytime he can skip school to go hunting or fishing, I think we started that pretty early, and you know it's kind of been a struggle here lately now that he's in high school, but it's been a lot of fun.
Oh man. So he and Cade's just as bad. Cade's my buddy, and we've always been tight. So we'll see if Ellie and Bo turns out.
Evie and Bo Henry.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Ellie. That's Lucy's little girl, but
Ellie's my little turkey hunting buddy.
Oh yeah, you've taken her several times.
But not to worry, my kids will be here, and they will. It'll be a derby out here. Yeah. It's going to be big. So
be good times.
I'll get you back, Uncle Junior. Yeah. You can count on that.
You can count on it.
All right, so we're going to go back and we're going to do a little reminiscing. A lot of people ask me all the time, said, now, what about your boys that race NASCAR? Well, we talked about Billy. Billy retired from NASCAR after an accident in a street car. I had it wrong. I thought your crash in Chicago took you out, but I was corrected. It was a streetcar accident where you were a passenger, actually in the back seat.
Yeah, and, I was not responsible for the first crash of my life. I wasn't driving.
That was pretty good.
I don't know. He's probably responsible.
Somehow or another, he was distracting the driver. He probably told him to go. Clear, go. Yeah.
Probably had his hands over their eyes.
All right. And so then what about Hank Parker Jr.? What's he up to? So we're going to be talking about Billy selling dirt. Hank Parker Jr. is working at Snowbird, a Christian camp up in the North Carolina mountains. Took my grandbabies and moved them 4 hours away from me, so I'm not happy about that. But that's just the way it is. So we're going to catch up a little bit. We're going to let these guys tell some stories. And so anytime you guys want to jump in and tell a good story about your dad and your childhood and things that went good, just jump right on in. If you got something bad to say about each other, that's okay too. Just don't talk bad about your dad.
Let's get the deadbolt on that door and start, because I got a lot to say.
He said he's known me my whole life. I've known him my whole life. And jumping in is not an easy thing to do when it gets to talking and story time.
You know, that 911 commercial where the lady's falling and can't get up. Martha got me a T-shirt that says, I'm talking and I can't shut up.
Yeah,
that's pretty appropriate. I'm gonna try to let you guys talk. Hank Jr., tell us about, kind of bring us up to speed with where you are, how many kids you got, what you're up to, what your kids are up to. You got college girls now. You got all kind of stuff going on. Kind of just bring us up to speed about Hank Parker Jr., the race car driver. He retires to raise a family. Tell us about your family.
Well, so I got out of racing in my early to mid 30s, was married, had 2 kids at the time, Alex and Madison, my 2 oldest daughters. And from that, we started doing the television. I was doing a lot of racing television. We started Hank Parker 3D, and that grew, and we did that for about 10 years. And from that, continued to have kids who loved to hunt and fish. They were on the show often. So, I've just been blessed with a wonderful family. I got a wonderful wife, Wendy, who's just who's always just been awesome. She's done a great job as a mom with our kids, done a good job standing by me as, you kind of navigate life. When I was, in my 20s, I just figured I would race till it was time to retire, and I'd have enough money to buy a ranch somewhere and deer hunt the rest of my life. But, life has a way of throwing you bumps and curves in the road, and I'm really thankful for that because, I would never be where I'm at had I stayed in racing. And so outside of the television show, we did that for a number of about 10 years.
15.
And so it's crazy how fast that goes. And I'm involved in full-time ministry. I work at a camp called Snowbird Wilderness Outfitters. And for most people that think about Christian camp, you think about, popsicle stick, art and craft time and that sort of thing. I have found a group of guys who are serious about Jesus, but they're a little bit crazy like us. So it's awesome to be involved with those guys. It's a high-adventure recreation camp. We're based in western North Carolina, right near the Nantahala River, where it's world-class whitewater rafting. Every kid that comes to our camp gets an opportunity to go down the river. We service about 11,000 junior high and high school students a year. It's a year-round camp. These guys, they take it to the next level when it comes to having a good time, recreation, but they're very serious about kids knowing and following Jesus and having their lives transformed by the gospel. And so it's just something that in the kind of towards the end of my racing career, I was very interested in, and it's just that's continued to grow, and it's a privilege to be a part of that team. So that's what I'm doing now. I live in western North Carolina. I have 5 kids. I have 2 kids that are out of the house. My 2 oldest daughters, Alex and Madison, are in school and working, and Boone's a junior in high school. He plays football and on the high school shooting team, which a lot of people probably confused.
Let me hold you right there. The high school shooting team, they had a competition last week. I got a copy. Wendy sent me a copy of the newspaper. Boone's on the front page. Shot almost a perfect score.
Yeah.
The highest score that's ever been shot in the history of that particular competition. Yeah. He won by a landslide. Yeah. But tell me what he shot like.
Okay, so it's first of all, it's a high school shooting team, and there's several in our area that still do that. So you have archery, you have 22, and then you have skeet. And so you have a possibility of 200 points in each one. Boone shot a 200 in archery, which is a perfect score. You shoot from, I think, 10, 15, 20, 25. You have 5 targets. Then you have 22, which you shoot in 5 different positions. And that's prone, sitting, kneeling, and standing. And then you have skeet, which is basically a 5-stand trap. And he shot 200s in archery and the skeet, and then he shot a 198 in the 22, which is pretty crazy standing up. And so he had a good day. We're looking forward to it.
Perfect. Wow.
We're going to district this weekend. Pretty excited about that. So he's all into hunting and fishing. He's always loved a turkey hunt, loved fishing, and he's following the same path that we all have. And
all right, let's talk about your other 2.
Cade is playing every sport known to man. He plays baseball, football. He ran cross country. He played basketball. So that's a little different than us. Growing up, I never really played any sports because we were busy with hunting and fishing. And Cade's an awesome kid. He's growing up. He'll be 13 this turkey season. He's ready to go. He's ready to turkey hunt, and he's an awesome kid. And then my youngest daughter, Lana. So she's an awesome kid. She's in school. She's learning. She's growing, and she shot a shotgun for the first time yesterday, and she enjoyed that. Said she wants to be on the shooting team. We'll see how that goes.
Let's talk a little bit about Lana. You guys adopted. You and Wendy went over and adopted Lana. And where was she from?
She's from the country of Haiti.
From Haiti, and you guys made several trips over there.
Mm-hmm. It took us 6 years. It's a long process. If anybody keeps up with the world news, and you can see that Haiti's a country that's in a lot of turmoil. They've had a lot of problems with the assassination of their president several years ago, which they have not replaced. So it's a pretty war-torn country. Lana's a sweet kid. I'm super thankful to be her daddy and to be able to raise her under my roof. She's a good kid, and just thankful for the opportunity that the Lord has put in our laps for her to be in our family.
Yeah, that is so awesome. You told me a story, and Billy, I don't want to leave you out, but this is a cool story. We're going to get to you in just a second. Hey, and we love this. And I want to talk about this, and it's a subject that may be a little bit uncomfortable, and I'm going to get to you with maybe some uncomfortable questions as well. But I think it's a point that we need to bring out, and I think people on the podcast can appreciate it. So that's why I want to bring it up. When you went over to adopt Lana, you made several trips over there, and you told me, and I'm a soft-hearted person to begin with, and I'm crazy about kids. Mm-hmm. And you told me about when you would go to the orphanage where she was, that these kids kind of knew the routine. They knew somebody was going to be adopted, and you told me that they would run up to you and say, "Are you going to be my daddy? Are you going to be my daddy?" And that just ripped me up.
Yeah.
Tell me just briefly a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's so. There's a lot of places to start. Our heart for adoption started long before we ever. It took us 6 years, so that was a long wait. And then it's a big financial burden, and it's an incredible amount of paperwork and all the things that you have to do. And we would take trips to Mexico, and we fell in love with a little boy down there in Mexico who needed some help, and we would go every year and see him. And it was just we wanted to adopt that young man, but it was not available for us. And so my wife was on a missions trip, a short-term missions trip in Haiti, and she said, "I think I found the place. There's some hurt here." And a lot of people look at this as if we're going to get uncomfortable, we'll just go ahead and say, the white privilege, that these white people are going to come save someone of a different race. And everybody can talk about either side of the aisle on that. But what we wanted to do was help somebody that was in need. Her mother had passed away. Her father was completely incapacitated. And it was an opportunity for us to help. It didn't matter to me if my child this little girl was from Haiti, or if she was from a southern state in America or anywhere in America. Color, any of that stuff didn't really matter. We weren't trying to blend our family or mix our family to look a certain way, but what we want to do is sacrificially lay down our lives for somebody who needed help. And what an opportunity. I mean, you've got this privilege when you have kids to raise them up and point them to Jesus and see this culture changed by a light going out into a dark world. Why not do that if you have the time, the opportunity? We caught it on the backside of our age. So I feel like, I kind of feel like a dad that's a grandpa. But it's worth it. It's worth it for that one kid. And that's what the Lord called us to, and we wanted to be faithful to do it, and super thankful that it has worked the way it has.
Well, for me, there's no color barrier. Lana loves me like all your other children do. We have so much fun together. I cut up with her. She's a nut. Yeah. She's faster than lightning, so she can pick on me and run, and I can't catch her. I mean, I can't even come close. She gets in a different time zone by the time I get started trying to chase her down. But we just have so much fun, and there is no color barrier there whatsoever, and she's just such a cool kid, and I'm glad you did that. And we talk about adoption, Billy. You and Laura tried so hard and just couldn't have children. Yeah. And so when the opportunity to adopt came along with Evie, you guys had been to some class learning to be a foster parents?
Yeah, well, kind of to bird's eye view on this thing, Laura and I got married, and, I'm, early 30s at that time, and I've always wanted a big family, so, no reservations. We started trying to have kids right away. Yeah. Laura's 10 years younger than me, so she's got a
cradle robber,
right? bigger cushion of time. But I was ready, yeah. And so we that was something we worked on and tried for 9.5 years, and it was a lot of hardships goes with that. It's taxing on your marriage to feel like you can't achieve what your heart set out for, and she wanted to be a mother. I wanted to be a father. And she came to me one day and she said, "Billy, we've been praying the wrong prayer." I'm thinking, what do you mean? She said, well, we've been kind of basically telling God what we want and asking him for it. But we have yet to stop and ask God, what does he want in our life? And I was like, wow, yeah, you're right. We've been wanting to have kids and been praying to have kids. We've been seeing specialists. We've done a lot of things, and she's carried a child for months, and then just, those things happen. It's more common than you realize, and then you get in that situation. There's a lot of people that suffer from this, and she told me we were praying the wrong prayer. So that night when we prayed, she said, God, give us what you want. What do you want? Because we want what you want. And the next day, things started changing. Things started happening. Mountains were moved. And I won't bore you with all the little details, but I mean, just things like we were signed up to take foster classes in our county and different places, and they just kept saying, nope, not available, nope, not available. Even after we had kind of been accepted, they came back and said not available. So that next day, we got a phone call from Ebenezer's and Wilkes that said, we told y'all we didn't have room, we were full, but we're going to make room for you.
That's awesome.
I know that's minor, but that's huge to us.
It's a big deal.
At 9+ years into this thing, So we took, several weeks of classes to be foster certified. And we looked at adoption through private agencies and things like that, but this was just kind of where we were drawn. And the last night of our class, the ladies came to us and said, I need to see you after class. And then Laura pinched me and said, you didn't do your homework.
That's what I would have thought.
You didn't do it. And here we are, not going to get certified.
That's funny.
So after class, they came to us and they sat down at a table like this, and she said, there's a little girl that just got born. And she was safe surrendered. And Jean said, I've been here 34 years. We've never had this happen.
That's awesome.
And she said, one of the ladies said, we can't tell you anything about her. We don't know gender, race, anything. All we know, and at this point, I want to stop and kind of fill you in. My race car number was 86.
Yeah.
I kind of adopted your number when you left late models. It was 86. My wife was born in 86. We have a lot of 86s going on in our household with passcodes and email. My email ended in 86. Laura's ended in 86, and it was just by chance. And the lady came to us and she said, we don't know anything. All we know is she held up a piece of paper and it said 8.6. She weighs 8.6 pounds. That may mean nothing to you, but you can just imagine being in this situation. They just told you about a little girl, and you got to make a move, and you got to make a decision pretty quick. So we went to the hospital the next day, and it's just like, fell in love with Evie right away. And so it took 14 months, but we got her adopted. We were her foster parents, and we kept her every moment. And 14 months later, we got to adopt her. And
that's awesome.
She is me made over. She is hyper.
Yes.
She's kind of obnoxious. She needs a lot of it. She is me. You know what I mean? And I love her, man. It's it just worked out perfect. It's
all right. Then we're going to talk about Bo.
And my boy Bo Henry was 2 years and 29 days later. He was born from Evie, and that's kind of neat because Hank, me and Ben are twins, and then we have Hank Jr., which is like 2 years and 3 or 4 months older than us. That's a great age, man. We had we did a lot of stuff together because of our age. It wasn't gapped so hard. So 2 years, 29 days later, they call us. I'm coming down the mountain from work, and Jean called and said, "There's a little boy at the hospital, and he's completely addicted to drugs, and he has no way."
And how old was he at this time?
They called me. I think he was 4 days old. He's still in the hospital. So this was on a Friday. Saturday morning, I woke up, went to the hospital and met him, and he's looked rough. I mean, it just tore me up. And she said, we just need a place for him to stay until we get this figured out. This is foster care. These are kids that are in foster care. So my kids, miraculously, they came from the hospital as babies, and you don't see that a lot. But they were custody of the state at this time, and so it's a little different than what you were explaining. You know a lot about it, but for a lot of people that don't know, I mean, it's a burden of the state, is what they say, and then foster parents take it and they find them a forever home. There's no money exchanged, but there's no guarantee. So we took Bo home, and he cried and screamed and just only ate enough to stay alive for 7 months.
That's because of his addiction.
Yeah, he was so irritated. His little body was so irritated, and he was just miserable. And one day I put him down for a nap. I moved in his room at night because Laura needs sleep, right? She's just that kind of person. She needs 7-8 hours a night. Yeah. So I moved in Bo's room and stayed with him all night, and we rarely ever slept. One day I put him down for a nap in the afternoon, and he woke up from that nap smiling. He was about a little over 7 months old, and he has been smiling and happy every day since.
He is a smiling kid.
He is a smiling. He looks a lot like a miniature version of Hank Jr. and Boone. It's hilarious. I tell him all the time he's Boone number 2, but he's an amazing kid.
His head was disfigured.
Yeah.
And you guys got him a helmet.
Yep. Yeah, we did. We found a specialist in Winston-Salem. We took him there a lot, and they made this cast helmet for him, and every week they would have to adjust it. But he had a big hematoma on his head, and he looked bad. You remember? Yeah. And we kept that helmet on for, I don't even know how long it was, probably 15 weeks, something crazy, way longer than they expected. Yeah. And he's got the most perfect little round head.
He's such
cool
a
kid.
beautiful kid. He is. You would never know. It is just a miracle. It's a miracle. Yeah. This kid was addicted to drugs from birth. His head was disfigured. He was unhappy. He never quit crying. And now he never stops smiling. His little head is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
He is so beautiful. And he's my grandson, and I'm so tickled to death. But I'm so proud, Billy. I am so proud of you and Laura.
Well, I hear that a lot, but honestly, I will just confess this. We're kind of selfish. We wanted kids, and this was a perfect match. We gave some kids that didn't have hope. We gave them hope, but they gave us something that only they could give us.
Yeah,
I didn't want to leave this world not being a dad. I want to live a long time, and I want to have that in my life. And so they gave us something far greater than I feel like we can give them. But we're working for them every day. I can tell you that.
Well, I wanted this to be fun, and then I want to have a good time. And you guys are nuts. I'm a nut. We've always been a nut. We've always cut up with each other. But I wanted to get that out. I wanted people to know who you are. I wanted to know your families. I wanted people to know your background. And when I tell people I am so proud of my kids, I want them to know my kids, and I want them to know the things that are important. And foster parenting, adoption, raising kids, prioritizing your family is important.
It is.
And I love the foundation that both of you guys are building, the foundation of your homes and an altar in your home based on a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it's so obvious as you live your lives, as you go into your home, it's very obvious that this is a place that honors Jesus Christ. And I could not be more proud of who you guys have become as dads, as parents, as family men, and the way you've adopted and taken kids in, and the way you've raised your own children. I couldn't be more happy, and I wanted to get that out. But I want this podcast to be fun.
Yeah.
Well,
you guys are nuts.
Well, I want to end that part of it by saying thank you for letting me tell the story, because Sherry at the orphanage, she told me, she said, don't pass a chance of telling people about your kids and how you got them.
That's cool.
Because we need more people. We need more parents. We need more people to take on these foster kids. They don't have a home, and they need a home, and they need love. And when people see your kids and see you and see what you have, don't stop. Tell them. Won't refrain. Tell them your story, because you might encourage them or someone they know to go and be a foster parent and take that burden from take that kid and give them some hope.
You're talking about Billy's story, Hank. Don't pass that opportunity to tell that story. Don't pass the opportunity to talk about the barriers and the obstacles of having a black child in a white family.
Right.
And
Right.
some people think that's a cool factor, and that's not at all. You guys, your heart was, and it's like Billy said, when they got the call from the hospital, they didn't know what race Evie was. It didn't matter.
That's right. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They're kids, man.
Right.
They're kids.
yeah.
They need a home. They need love. And it doesn't matter.
That's right.
And all this race barrier and all this stuff that we're so divided.
Right.
I think that some of our former presidents and administrators have tried to cause a great division in our country. Heck with all of that.
That's right.
I don't see it. I don't see this great divide in my life. I see it on TV. We don't watch TV. We do not watch the news channel.
Except
in my
Hank
house.
Parker's out in the magazine.
We
Don't
watch
miss
you.
that.
But we don't watch the news. And I don't see these things, this great divide in race. I mean, you know, I don't
in
see
reality.
it. Yeah, in reality, in my life, I don't see it. But now, if you turn the news on, I guess you do see it, but I don't watch the news. So.
Yeah, well, I don't want to watch it, and I don't want any part of it, and it's so cool. And like I told you, Lana, for us, there's been no barrier whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
she's a kid that needs love. I mean, there's obstacles, and you got to raise each kid. Every one of my kids are different, you know, their personalities. And obviously, there are things that we have to teach her because there are differences, and we don't act like there's not differences. But at the same time, Christ came to unite us, not to divide us. And so, you know, as we have been loved, we would like to love others, and that's our goal.
Well, that is awesome, and we're going to get now onto more of the fun stuff. But I wanted that out. I wanted that out in the beginning, where we all understand who we are and appreciate where our priorities are. And of course, my priority is on Jesus Christ, and I think both you guys would agree that that's where your priorities are. And the rest of it, if you live according to His Word, the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, it won't be easy, and you know. The gospel is free. The gift of salvation is free, but it'll cost you for the rest of your life. And we may go across the finish line bloody and sweaty and wore out, but we're going to get there. By His grace, we're going to get there, and it's going to be a good time till we get there, you know, because we have a hope that's beyond what this world offers, and we have a joy that's been put in our hearts. And that's why we're cut ups, because there's something to that.
The Bible talks about He lights the path. All we got to do is follow that path. And it may not be easy, but it's a path that is achievable, and He lays it out for us. And Gordon Mote, who I love, entertainer and a gospel music singer, he sings the song, "I Can't Even Walk Without Holding His Hand."
That's cool.
And I can't even walk without Him holding my hand, and that's for sure. I made a lot of messes, but it's so awesome to be on that path that He lights for us. And so let's talk now about the crazy guys that you are. And Cade, you talking about flattering as a grandpa. Probably the most flattering thing that you can get is when your grandkids want to hang out with you. And last year, Wendy, who was Hank's wife, and he, like Billy, they both married way over the head. They out punted their coverage, but Wendy is just an awesome daughter-in-law, awesome girl, awesome mom. And she called me and she said, "You know, Cade's birthday's coming up." I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna get him this or that or something," and I don't even remember what it was at the time. And she said, "Well, no." I asked him. I said, "Cade, if you could have anything in the world you wanted for your birthday, what would that be?" And he said to go fishing with Papa.
That's funny.
And so they live in Andrews, North Carolina, and Lake Fontana. I remember when I was younger, I would go up and stay in these cabins and keep the boat right there in the water. And we'd just get out of the cabin and go fish and come back to the cabin and cook lunch or dinner or whatever and sleep in the cabin. And it was just a very cool environment. And I thought, man, that's what I want to do with Cade. So I did. And so Wendy is a nutritionist. She got a degree from the University of North Carolina on nutrition. And so she does not let Hank Jr.'s family eat junk.
It's rough.
Yeah,
It's rough.
you got. I mean, she's really so. Kate and I went grocery shopping at Dollar General. And he said, Papa, what can we get? I said, we can get anything. He said, I've really heard these Klondike bars are great. I said, get you some Klondike. So we bought nothing but junk. Matter of fact, when Wendy finally came up to pick him up after our 3-day fishing trip, she looked in the cabinet. She said, oh, no, I'm going to have to detox him. I mean, we ate nothing but junk. But we had these little pizzas. And and Cade loves me to death, but Cade also loves his Uncle Catfish. Yeah. So as we were fishing the first day, Cade said, you know what would be fun? I said, what was that? He said, if Uncle Catfish would come up and be with us. I said, well, let's call Uncle Catfish. So Billy was going to come up the next morning and go fishing, which he did, but that night, we got in the pantry and all of the choices of our health food. Cade fixed out these little pizzas. Mm-hmm. So I stuck them in the oven and had them going in the cabin, and the alarm evidently went off. And it's a very high pitch. I can't hear it for nothing. So Cade's he's making these awful faces and holding his ears. He said, Papa, what are we going to do? I said, what do you mean? He said, what are we going to do? I said, what are you talking about? He said, the alarm. I said, what alarm? He said, oh, no, Papa, you don't hear that alarm. I said, no, I can't hear high pitch, buddy. So it's going off. He said, oh, my goodness, Papa, it's busting my eardrum. So we turned the fan on. We opened all the doors and windows, and we finally got it to quit. So the next day when Billy came up, Kate said, hey, Catfish, if we have a secret we want to keep from Pawpaw, we don't have to whisper it. We just talking high pitch.
Yep. Oh, he's a character.
Yeah, he's a character.
And that's Cade.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a nut.
Yes, he is.
Man, I love that kid to death. We caught fish. We had fun. Catfish caught fish. We had a good time. But that's Cade. Boone is a very serious kid now. Boone, man, when we're fishing, he's dialed in.
He's pretty serious. Yeah.
Yeah, the first thing Cade said to me when I got on the boat with y'all when we started fishing, I think it was literally the first cast. I didn't make the greatest cast in the world. And Cade looked at me and said, does your husband fish? I was like, this guy.
No.
Oh, man. This is going to be a long day.
Yeah.
I've got my hands full.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. All right. Now we talked about. I had Billy on a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and we talked about growing up. Mm-hmm. We talked about what were the highlights of life. We talked about fishing, hunting, dogs. Some of the things we did. I remember several things with you. I remember you killing the first duck you killed with a little 410 shotgun with a hammer on it that you had to cock, and our dogs. And we had a dog, and I want to tell this story. And I'm so tender about kids and dogs, and it's hard to tell this story. But we had this dog named Knight, and he was just a puppy. And he was like 7 months old. Yeah.
Knight the Wonder Dog.
Knight the Wonder Dog. That's what we call him. And that dog loved Hank Parker Jr. That dog absolutely just loved him to death. And we were duck hunting, and we were setting up on the front of the boat. And we were on Mountain Island Reservoir. And it's a wildlife refuge, a waterfowl refuge, where the boat ramp is, but there's a long creek that is not part of the refuge. So it's legal hunting. And but that creek's hard to get up unless the water is high.
Right.
So that particular day, Lake Norman is up above, and they turn the wheels. They release water out of Lake Norman, so all that water's rushing in that creek, and it's coming up really fast. It's kind of dangerous, to be honest. And
it's a narrow river.
It's a very narrow creek.
It comes up quick.
And it was coming up, but it's a good time to duck hunt. So I put Hank Jr. up on the front with his little 410, and we had Knight.
Now, can I get a ticket for this now, or is this past the time?
Totally legal.
Okay, just making sure. Making sure.
It was totally legal. Statute of limitations. No, it was totally legal. You were sitting on the front. We were not running the motor. I was steering the boat with the motor, but the motor wasn't running. And the dog was sitting right beside you,
Yep.
and we had a big greenhead mallard come in and fly in and land. And so we're sneaking up on this mallard and going to jump shoot him. And just as he came up off the water, you shot and wounded him.
Yep.
So we sent Knight, the wonder dog, after him, and the dog went up under the creek bank, and the water's coming up, so it trapped him. And now all of a sudden the water is up way beyond anything we can do about it.
Right.
And this dog is,
We just figured he was dead.
he's gone.
Yeah.
We lost our pup.
Yeah.
And this dog was such a special dog. He was 7 months old. He had already retrieved ducks, and he was just a pet, man. We loved him to death. And Hank Jr. and I were screaming for him, and we're crying. I mean, like, I'm crying like a baby. He's upset, and our dog is gone. Yeah. And so we finally came to the realization there's nothing we can do about it. He got up under that bank, the water flooded, and now he's drowned. So we started to crank the motor, and all of a sudden we heard a duck quacking, and here comes Knight the Wonder Dog, muddy as he can be, with a smile on his face, with that duck in his mouth, the duck's still alive. And he's swimming, he's got that, and he's swimming against that current's so swift, but
We got him.
we got him.
We got him.
Man, was that not happy
That
times?
was so cool. I'll never forget that because we had a couple duck blinds out there, and I used to love. I mean, I remember being a kid, and before I could even shoot, I would go out and sit with you guys in the blind and see y'all would shoot a duck with a band, and I would be so excited about, one day I'm gonna get me a band. And then that dog, he was able to do that, and from then on, if there was ever a duck that dove or there was any situation, like you could throw a rock and he would go down. He would go to the bottom of our swimming pool, which was 12 feet deep, and pull a rock up. That dog was something else.
He
That
looked
was
like
cool.
a corkscrew. He would literally swim down however far it would take, and he would get that rock or whatever you threw, and he would retrieve it and come back to surface. He was not a quitter.
You go through life, and you had a dog named Tank that was awesome. I got a dog now named Thorn that is awesome dog, and you've got your dogs. But I think now that people have told me this, now I'm 71 years old, I realize.
Man, that happened quick.
Yeah, I'll be 72 my next birthday. How about you, Billy?
Man, I don't want to talk numbers.
Yeah.
Let's just
But
leave
I'm almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't do that so much. But anyway, I was told you'll have one out of your lifetime. You'll have one special dog.
Yeah.
And now I've had a couple, but that was the one. That was the dog.
That's cool.
Yeah.
He was a great dog. He was our guardian. He was our pet. He was our hunting dog. We'd ride our bicycles through the neighborhoods and stuff, and dare a dog to jump out in the street at us.
Well, duck hunting.
Knight would show up with an ear in his mouth. You know what I mean? He wasn't going to let it happen. He was a good dog.
Duck hunting changed, and it was so good when I was real young, and then it kept waning, and then the rules would change, and then you get up and you work so hard to go kill 2 ducks, it just became not really worth it. And it was really good when we had that dog, and by the time he died, duck hunting wasn't that good anymore. So it's kind of our priorities changed too. So it's kind of the end of an era for us.
He was 13 years old when Knight died, and Timmy, your little brother, Timmy came on the scene, and Timmy kind of took Knight over. Knight loved kids, and Timmy just bonded so much with Knight. And I remember after Knight died, Timmy, one night we were saying our prayers. I used to go up with him, and he was in the room above us, and I would go up and say prayers with him. And he asked me one night, he said, "Daddy, you believe Jesus can do anything?" I said, "Yes, sir, little buddy, I do." He said, "I do too. I'm praying he'll bring Knight back." He wanted Knight to come back.
Man. Yeah.
He's so funny.
That was a tough day when he left, no doubt. He was a good one, though. I remember how he went out. And if I'm not mistaken, you were taking Wendy to the prom. Is that right?
That's right.
And I washed your car for you. And I was washing Junior's car, getting it all cleaned up for him. He was going to prom with Wendy, and y'all wasn't really dating then, was you?
No.
You just had asked her. She said yes. And you were really wanting to, be on your best. And so I'm shining your car up, and Knight walks down the driveway, And he kind of got that old smile on his face, you know. And I just acted like I was going to squirt him with a hose, but I didn't. I just got close to him, and he just kind of hauled off. Went up there against the house, and I kept on washing your car. And I looked up there. He's a statue against the house.
Yeah.
That's the last moment, man. He was a
That's
happy
way down.
dog.
That's exactly.
He was an old man when he left, and he had a good life, and he was good to us.
But I hadn't got over it yet.
No.
But those are happy times. That's kind of the way we were raised. That's kind of the way we lived. We hunted and we fished, and everything evolved. It's all I knew, you know. I wasn't a big Disney World guy. I wasn't a big putt guy. I wasn't a big go out and do this. Man, It seems like every event that was important that I included you guys in, and maybe this was a bad deal on my part, but it was all around the outdoors. You know, everything we did was hunting or fishing or swimming or doing something outside. I mean, that's all that I go back and I think about all the childhood memories and stuff. And we didn't make a lot of vacations and a lot of trips and do a lot of special things. It was, if we went to the beach, it was all about fishing. You know, we just didn't just go hang out very much.
We're not leisurely folks.
Yeah.
I
We're on
remember
a mission.
when we were kids, we got these things. People, they're not popular anymore. It's called a wet bike, but it looked like a motorcycle. It had these big skids, and you get up off the water. And they started off, the white one had, you know, I don't know what, it'd run like 20 miles an hour. Then they got a red one that run 25. And then they got a silver one that run like 35 miles an hour. And I just remember being a kid. People always used to ask me when I was in my 20s and racing, like, how, you know, your dad, most people picture fishing. I mean, I think it's evolved over time. But back then, people pictured fishing as you sat on the creek bank with a cane pole and a bobber, which is awesome. We all love that. But fishing's a little bit different than that. You're like, how do you go from your dad fishing, because that's the picture they had in their mind, to driving a race car? And so he had these wet bikes, and I was just a little kid. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. He'd throw me on the front of that thing, and he'd go out there wide open, jumping waves, laying that thing down, scaring us to death. And I was like, well, how do you not become a race car driver when that's how you're raised? You know?
He was an adrenaline junkie, and he got us on the edge. You know, he would put us at our utmost fear, you know, on those things, 3-wheelers and wet bikes and everything else. It was all about going to the limit.
I can remember, you know, one time as a kid, you got a boat in for the year of bass fishing, and we've got that thing in the garage, and you got ratchet straps, and you jack it up on the rafters to get it up off the trailer, and we sanded down the back and then re-cleared it and got it all smooth. And I went for a ride in that thing with you, and I thought, oh, if we make it back to the ground, I'm never getting in the water again. This guy's crazy. That thing was running like 65 miles an hour back then with a 150, and it was chiming. I thought, we're going to flip end over end before it's over with.
Yeah, I've been in that situation.
You have. I almost lost you one day. You're a little hind end. You didn't weigh nothing, and we hit a wave, and he came out of the seat. And I grabbed him by his belt as he was going out of the boat and put him back in the seat. So,
And I'm like, we were just having fun fishing. But for some reason, we had to go 79 miles an hour from one hole to the next.
No matter what.
I've matured. I don't do that with my grandkids. I made sure, Boone, we had the life jackets on every time. And we ran about 40 miles an hour, you know, and I got a 21-foot Z boat now, you know, but we don't need to go fast. We don't need to go.
Right. It was all about scaring us.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, though, how you change when you get older. You get more protective. And them grandbabies, I'm very protective with you guys, man. Throw the mud on the wall. Hopefully it'll stick.
We were disposable, right?
I don't know.
Let's talk about the time I was gone, and I was on I went to do a seminar, and I got you guys bow and arrows. Mm-hmm. And you had these little compound bows. Mm-hmm. Well, over on the wall hanging up is my bow with my arrows with broadheads on.
Right.
Yeah. And so I come home.
What's yours is ours.
Yeah. Right. I come home, and the whole side of the garage is shot full of broadheads. Yeah. Knight had an arrow in his leg.
Yeah.
That was Ben, by the way.
Ben put an arrow in his leg. There was one in your mom's car tire.
Yeah.
And
but the whole side of the garage was just arrows everywhere.
I think there needs to be a disclaimer. Please don't try this at home. We were pretty dumb. But what was funny is, I think it was Catfish over there.
Oh, right.
He shot the first one in the garage, like, hey, let's get this out and let's see what it'll do. So we pulled it back. whack, it hits the side of the house, because it was a wood-sided house.
Couldn't get it out.
Yeah. Oh no, this was the fun part. So I walked up to it and stepped on it and broke it flush with the house. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! Let's do that again." And this was back in the day with double X 75s. They'd bend so easy anyway, and you could just, when you stepped on it, snap right now. So I think we broke a few fishing rods for the fun of it that weekend, and then I know we broke 20 arrows. We were shooting them up in the air.
We were on a rampage.
Yeah. That's how the dog got shot. Ben shot the arrow up in the air, and y'all ran because it was going to come back down.
160 grain thunderhead.
Thunderhead, baby.
Yeah.
Woo!
And Knight, the wonder dog, didn't run, and it hit him right in the ham. I could have killed y'all.
Well,
we didn't
if
understand.
You'd have caught us, you might would have.
I caught you.
We didn't understand why you were so mad, but I guess with kids, I get it now.
Oh, absolutely.
The very best one I had a group of engineers from Japan to come over. They were making the first computerized reel. You remember that?
Yes, I remember this well.
And this thing was a chunk of aluminum, and this prototype reel was they probably had $100,000 in this reel, and they plugged all these wires in it. And I told them that they wanted to come on this particular morning, and I had to go work at the Chicago Boat Show, and I was booked to fly out. So all these engineers from Japan came, and we're working on this reel, and they had a big box, a big computer that they plugged all these wires in, and they could read, and they could tell what the speed of the spool was, what the speed of the line was, and all the working parts of this reel as the magnets would close and slow down based on the speed of the line leaving the reel. And it's just a very complicated deal, and they couldn't get their computer to read correctly. So they wanted to reschedule. So I said, I can't. They wanted me to stay. I can't. I got a flight. I've already booked, and I got to be at the Chicago show. So I told them, I said, but I'll be back on Monday. They said, okay, well, we're just going to go stay in a hotel, and we'll leave the rod and reel here, and we'll take our computer. We're going to work on this. So I got 100 rods and reels in my garage.
At least.
And this is a block of aluminum.
It looks like something from the future. It was the wildest looking thing we'd ever seen.
I mean, if you went in, anybody looking for a rod and reel to go in a garage, you would never choose that rod and reel. I got all kind of rods and reels in there.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gone.
Before you left, what did you say?
Do not touch
Do not mess with this rod on my workbench. Leave that rod and reel alone.
And you probably somewhere in there said, "Look at my face. Do you hear me?"
Yeah. Loud and clear. Do not. So I'm on the way home from the airport, and I'm talking to your mom, and she said, by the way, the boys went fishing on the dock last night, and they lost one of your rods and reels, and they're really upset about it. But I told them you had plenty, and you wouldn't be all that upset.
What did it look like?
When I get home, the rod and reel, I got 5 Japanese engineers staying in a hotel that has stayed all weekend to get a read on that reel. And it's in Lake Norman.
It's in the...
When it went off the pier, it was Ben.
It was Ben.
We're blaming this one on Ben.
Absolutely
The catfish,
Ben.
the lake was turning over,
Yep.
and the catfish were biting like crazy. Yep. And we had about 3 rods setting out, and I looked over, and it looked like something off of Jaws. That rod went flying off the end of the pier, and it was gone.
It was like on skis going across the top of the water.
My prayer is I knew I was in huge trouble. This thing's, I don't know how much it cost, but for 5 engineers to fly from Tokyo to Charlotte to meet with me to get data, it had to be a big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm praying, Lord, there's 3 stumps out in front of this dock. My hope is somehow when that fish pulled that thing into the water with that big heavy aluminum chunk of aluminum, it got stuck in those stumps. So I stripped off, put on a little bathing suit, dove in, and started graveling for that. And
He would
found
come
it.
up, and he'd go back down.
And he's
come
so
up.
dramatic.
Oh, yeah, dramatic. Mad, shaking his fist, going down, coming up. Every time he came up, he was redder in the face, wasn't he?
I found it.
He did.
I found it. It was stuck in one of the stumps. Still had the fish on it,
Yep.
man. Yeah, still had the fish. I got it and brought it in and took a hair dryer, and I took everything apart I could. I didn't know how to take it all apart, but what I could, I did. I dried it perfect with a hair dryer. About 30 minutes after I got through here, all these guys pull up in the driveway. So we go down on the dock. They plug everything in the computer. And, of course, I don't speak Japanese. And they're all going, it's not working.
I wonder why.
They're working on the computer, you know. And I'm casting this reel, and they're looking at each other, and nothing's reading on it. And I'm sitting there saying, I don't know. Probably because I've been in the lake for 3 days. But nobody died in that. And y'all still, to this day, say it was Ben?
It was Ben.
Ben. Yeah,
was
it was
Ben.
definitely Ben.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Well, I'm going to have Ben on the show in the future.
Right. And when he tells you it was not him, don't believe him.
Don't blame
That's right.
It was definitely Ben.
Exactly right.
That is one that there is no statute of limitations. When I find out who did it, I'm going to give somebody a spank.
I thought we got one.
probably
We all
deserve
three
it.
got one.
Yeah,
for
but
that,
you're going to
didn't
get another
we? Okay.
one.
All
I
right.
had-
Get a
I had
better
to-
one.
Yeah, you're going to get a better one. When I find out it was
Right.
really you, Ben got blamed for everything. You know, when there's 3 kids involved and a window gets broken, somebody broke the window, and you say, okay,
Wasn't me.
wasn't me. Wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
Yeah. What do you do?
You whoop them all.
Yeah, I did that a few times. It didn't work either. I never found out. By the way, who broke the window in
I
Ben's
think
room?
that was Junior.
Which the big round window?
Yeah.
No, the one in Ben's room when the whole glass got knocked out.
Oh.
I don't know. I broke the big round window. I was shooting a BB gun,
Yeah, and I got the heat for it.
and I saw a bird, and I thought, I'm gonna smoke this bird. I had this big round bubble window. When I hit that thing, I was like, oh no! I put that BB gun up, and I just went in the house.
Right.
We never did really know how that broke. We thought maybe a bird.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Yeah,
but
I don't
think
know.
the
A
bird
light,
flew
the
into it.
sun.
All this time we thought a bird flew into
I
it.
think it's what it was. A bird with a BB. Right.
man.
That's what it was.
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you, time goes by really, really quick on these
does.
podcasts, and we didn't get anywhere near into the stories that I wanted to. There's so much we did not tell, so I'm going to have to get you guys to come back and be a part of a podcast when we don't do anything but cut up. We
All
don't-
right.
People know who you are now. People know what you're doing. People know where your priorities are. People know about your family, about your children. They know all this now. So next time we're just going to do the wild things and talk about the crazy stuff you did, and
All right.
and wrecking the race cars and how many you tore up, and y'all blame me for wrecking all the time, and which I very rarely wrecked.
I don't remember.
They
wrecking.
wrecked in front of you, I think. What it was.
Yeah,
But my
wasn't
fault.
my fault.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. My spotter didn't let
Bus-
me know.
yeah.
It was all kind of. I raced, and every time I raced, I wrecked. So, and they had to fix my car. I didn't know how, so they didn't like me to go racing.
You
very
were a
much.
good driver.
Yeah,
You were a
fast.
good driver.
Fast.
You just don't know any fear. And when you wreck, you don't wreck a little bit. You would wreck. It would be epic. Fireballs,
Yeah.
destruction,
Talk
tearing
about,
down the
like,
fence.
The car looked like wadded up newspaper. It was bad. And he'd say, guys, I'm not going to race next weekend, so don't worry about getting my car all fixed up. Hank Jr. was kind of the leader of the pack on that, and Dad would say, just don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. You know, we'd have to take the whole body off and cut the front clip off. I mean, it was the motors out, everything stripped down, going to the jig. And then Dad would come in Thursday and be like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna race this weekend."
Good.
we never slept a wink. We
There were a
just
lot of all-nighters, wasn't it, buddy?
Learned a lot.
All-nighters, man. Hey, we got so many stories, but family is great, and the opportunity to visit with your kids, man. And the greatest part about it is they make you grandbabies. Man, I got the coolest grandbabies. So it's all good. Billy,
yeah.
thank you for being with me, buddy. Tell everybody goodbye, and hopefully we'll see them soon again.
Yeah, we'll see you soon again. Thanks for joining in, and we had a lot of fun here today.
Yeah.
All right, it's your turn, Hank Jr.
I mean, I'm not sure how you want me to wrap that up.
You
That was
can
pretty
just
good.
say, hey, you can just say, hey, thank you, and we'll see you down the road.
Or how about this? God bless you. I'm Hank Parker. Jr.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hey, thanks for being with me. Hey, go up there and hit that subscribe button for us. We appreciate that. And God bless you. I'm Hank Parker, Sr. We'll see you down the road.